Okay, hello everybody. What I wanted to do today is I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Um, there's a lot of questions in regards to talking with our loved ones on the other side. A lot of times our loved ones give us signs. Sometimes we overlook those signs, but sometimes too we kind of feel bad about it once we realize, oh, it was them. But that's okay, all right, because they are not going to stop giving us signs. That's the cool thing about it. And um and they always uh give us little nudges, or sometimes we'll see them in our dreams. um our loved ones are constantly in communication, trying to talk to us or give us signs. Um, but I know some of us have busy lives, and and we know in the times when we're like quiet and we're still, it's like, oh, I wish I had a sign. Well, they've been giving you signs throughout the whole day. Sometimes they'll send you butterflies. Some butterflies will land on you or shoulders, or a ladybug. Sometimes you'll have like a bird constantly at your window, okay? Or you'll have feathers. Everywhere you'll see is feathers. Or famous, a lot of one too also sends out coins. It could be pennies, nickels, dimes, or quarters. I'll give an example. My mom, she has passed. She's passed since 2017, and she likes to drop quarters. I get a lot of quarters, so when I see quarters, I'm like, oh, thanks, mom, and I add it into my little quarter dish. Okay, because here in my apartment, this takes quarters, so I think she's trying to help me. Okay, so I was like, okay, thanks, mom, for the extra quarters. I can use them. So those are little things, little subtle things as our loved ones give us signs. Some of us, like I said, will hear them. Some will say, hey, hi, hello. Some will say our names. So that's it, it's a beautiful experience to hear from our loved ones on the other side. There's another thing that I want to talk about that is very it's a topic that everybody goes through, because I've done a lot of readings where there are some people who didn't get a chance to say goodbye, or there are some people who um, you know uh, maybe there was a disagreement and they just didn't, for some reason, that they didn't get to say goodbye or say their last words or what they wanted to say with their loved one before they passed. So there is a lot of guilt with that, right? And I get a lot of people saying, maybe there was a distance, like somebody lived in another state and they just couldn't afford to get to that person to be with them. There's different circumstances, but we feel bad about it, right? That we didn't get a chance to say goodbye or say I'm sorry, or just hear, or just be with them. All right, not necessarily have to say anything, but just be with them. Okay, so I get a lot of people with that type of a guilt, and what I tell them is that they got to understand that when our loved ones are on this side, that is all the things, like maybe there was a misunderstanding, argument, a fight. Maybe you can visit them. Maybe there was a distance, like state, country, whatever. And all that is forgotten on the other side, okay? Because the loved one on the other side understands. They understand that things happen, misunderstanding happens, or there's funds, there was no money to get to them, to be with them, so they understand that. And the thing they also tell me is that they don't want them to have this guilt of of not being there when they should have, or been, or feeling guilty because they weren't able to get there. I know a lot of people feel that, but a spirit on the other side understands that, and they don't hold any grudges about it. They don't feel bad about it. Okay, They always tell me to tell the living loved ones, say, you know what, just let that go. Just let it go. I don't want you to carry this burden with you entire life, because that's the thing they don't want us to feel. They don't want us to feel guilty. They don't want us to feel having this burden of guilt with us in our entire life. They don't want that. They want us to live the our lives to the fullest. Okay, our lives to the fullest, and they want us to thrive. That's what they want to see. They want us to see they want to see us happy. They want to see us thrive. They want to see us do things that we love to do. Continue, don't stop. Okay, so if somebody likes to do painting while the loved one is still alive, and that's something that the living does, doing painting, the loved one on the other side says, don't stop doing that. That's something that you love. They're saying, I don't want you to stop doing things that you love, because I am not there. And because the loved one will always still cherish and appreciate that you're doing things that you love. So they want us to take care of ourselves, and to make sure that we thrive, and make sure that we are happy without any of the burdens of guilt or sadness, anything like that. They know that we are sad because we miss them. And the thing about grieving, it doesn't matter how many days or how many hours or how many years a person is grieving. It varies from a person to person. I mean, I've done readings for people who grieve for like 20 years, okay, and they still feel like heartbroken, like it just happened yesterday. But the thing is that I always tell people about grieving is that it's not about closure. Okay, grieving is not about closure, because when we think of closure, we think of the end of feeling. It's like the end, or we're cutting off our loved one, of thoughts of our loved one, and our hearts of our loved one. So we kind of hold on to that, right? And because we don't want to let go. We don't want to create this closure from our loved ones, because we still feel them, we still love them, and so that's the thing I don't like to say is closure, because there is no such thing as closure, especially if it's someone that you love. It's like a wound that's continued to be open, right? And it's like you don't want to stitch up this wound, because then in your mind, or in a person's mind, or a concept, is like it'll be kind of like a pathway of forgetting that person that you love. Okay, so we're not going to do that. Okay, we're not going to think about any closure, because we're going to continue to love our loved ones on the other side. And also, another thing is that our loved ones remind us that they're with us. So I mean, every time our loved one reminds us that they're with us, it just brings up a lot of other feelings, right? Some people, it brings up sadness because we miss them, but that's not their intention of giving us signs, spirit signs. Okay, their intentions of giving us spirit signs is so we have acknowledgement of knowing that our loved one is with us, acknowledgement to know that they have not forgotten us either. Okay, as much as we think about them, they think about us too, and it's beautiful to know that, because we get signs from our loved ones that, oh, they thought about me, and that makes it more personable, more intimate, and develops more love for the loved one that's on the other side, to know that they are giving us signs. It doesn't matter what the sign is. It could be anything. It could be a song that you guys love together, like a popular song that you guys both love, and that's like a feature song. Maybe it's a song from a wedding, or maybe it was a song that the day you guys met, and that was kind of like a theme song for you guys. It doesn't matter. It could be in a song, it could be in a saying, it could be in a book, it could be in an actor or actress, it could be in a movie, it could be in like a vacation, like a vacation spot where you met. Okay, it doesn't matter, just as long as as long as spirit is giving us those signs, again, it could be in flower, it could be in butterflies, ladybugs, feathers. I did a reading one time. This gentleman who wanted to connect with his wife that was passed on the other side, and I told him, I said, you know what? I said, there's going to be a new sign that she's doing that's different. And he says, oh yeah, what's that? And I said, well, it's like leaves. It's like leaves falling from the tree or plant or something, but they're leaves. And then after we finished that sign, he had to go do some things, do some errands, and then when he came back to his truck, there was a leaf right on the seat. I was like, wow. And he goes and sends me a text message. Goes, hey, guess what? And then he says, you're right. My wife sent me a spirit sign of leaves, and it was in my truck. He says, all my windows are up, and I don't know how that leaf got in there. And he says, and then he took a picture of it and he sent it to me. I'm like, oh wow, oh wow. I'm like, wow. Okay, so it's doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Loved ones will always give us something to acknowledge that they are thinking of us as well. Okay, and sometimes too is that they know that we're grieving, that we're hurting, that we're missing them. They also come in our dreams to show acknowledgement that they are with us. Okay, also this is a part of a healing that they do as well. When our loved ones come in our dreams or they show us signs, it's part of a healing as well, to let us know that we're not alone grieving. They know that we're grieving, they know that we are hurting, and so they want to give us signs to support us as well. Okay, because I know some people think that they, spirits give us signs and just we feel more, like, oh, I missed them more, right? Yes, but see, that's not the intention of spirit. Spirit is trying to help you heal and help you cope with the loss. So that's what it's all about. All right, when our loved ones are on the side, it's about coping, learning to cope. That's how the healing starts, is learning to cope of the pain of missing our loved ones. All right, it's not about closure, because we're going to continue to see our loved ones give us signs. See, signs of giving, signs are limitless. They have unlimited ways of giving us signs. Okay, so I know there's like a generic about all the other ones that we know about, but you never know. You never know that spirit has unlimited ways to share signs with us. Okay, so you just have to be observant and keep an eye out, and know that your loved ones are on the other side, continually giving us signs and love and support, because that's what they want us to do. They want us to learn to cope with the loss of them not being here in the physical anymore. And they want us to thrive, and they want us to keep moving, keep going in life, and keep doing things that we love. I know there's some people that are maybe retired, and maybe their kids are all grown up and they're just them by themselves. You can get into things that you thought about doing before. Do it now, or continue to do what you were doing before when your loved ones was alive. There's some people that likes to travel, and when we travel, the neat thing about this is that our loved ones are with us as well, and they are along with us. Okay, so don't be surprised if you take some pictures, like maybe there's visiting family from another state. Don't be surprised when you take pictures. You're going to see some orbs in there. All right, that's your loved one. All right, because they're with us. They're going to show themselves to us in pictures. Okay, so and if you see some orbs in there, all right, you know that your loved ones are there, and they care about us. They want to make sure that we are thriving and moving forward. If you're interested in any of my services, and if you have a question, I also have a contact tab on there if you have any questions or anything about my services as well. But I do have I do mini readings, and I think the little mini readings is like 15 to 20 minutes. But if you want a longer reading, there's one for 30 minutes. And then I haven't did the one for an hour yet because um, the depending on what it is, it varies. But if you have a question about how much it costs for an hour, you can go ahead and send me a contact message with that as well. But I'm very well versed in a lot of my abilities, and I'm going to share a little bit about my abilities. I've been born with these abilities since birth, since as long as I can remember, and as long as I can remember is 4 years old. The reason why is because that's when I recall that I can hear spirits, see spirits, and sense them. Okay, so and I grew up that way. So my whole entire life, I would say like my upbringing has been both the physical, like growing up and interacting with people. And I have two older brothers. Okay, so so family, and then there's always the spirit side as well. I can see spirits, hear spirits, and feel spirits, sense spirit. Okay, so all of that was along my entire upbringing. Uh, it was like the way of life for me. Okay, so that's all basically I knew, but I knew I was different. I didn't know what I had, and what was the name of it or anything. And then I grew up uh, into a church. We went Christian domination, and so I grew up basically in the church. I started going to church. I think it was like about 9 years old, and then we kind of outgrew the church that we were in before because it was really small, and then we had other family members that was going to church in a different church, so we kind of followed them. And I loved it because all I did was sing, and I loved to sing, and because I sang from my heart. And so I was like about 10 or 11 years old at that time as well, and I wanted to join the choir because that was a big deal in that church, but they wouldn't accept me because I had to wait till I was 12 years old to join. That was the age cap right there to start. So I had to wait. So by the time I was 12 years old, I was excited. I was like, yay, I can join the church, yeah, the choir. So it's been going on ever since then. And so it was a lot of church experience background, okay, for Christianity. And also later on, my mom became a ordained minister as well. She took like these home classes and got packets that she did tests and all that, and she passed. And so she became the ordained minister within the church. Okay, so and I was a Sunday school teacher, sang in the choir, and did a couple of solos and stuff. So it was, I was we were all devout Christians in there. And then I met somebody, and that was outside the church. I didn't, and then after that, I just kind of I didn't go into church anymore because then we ended up moving to Orange County, a different city. So it just went out. And then the interesting thing was while I was dating my daughter's dad, I had a dream that I was going to have a girl before I even had a girl. Okay, so that was interesting. So my premonitions, the spirit side, continued to intermix with my regular life. Okay, still, even through my adult life. And so we got married, and then 3 years later, I had a daughter. Okay, so it's amazing how our abilities work in with our daily lives. And I think a lot of us, for me personally, it was growing up in my junior high and high school. It was like a little bit of a struggle because that's basically the ages that we try to identify ourselves. Where do we fit in? And it was hard for me because I had these abilities, and I'm like, where do I fit in? There's nothing in here that helps that fit in. Okay, I mean, there's everybody else, yeah, the cool kids, the jockeys, the popular, the good-looking kids, the sport kids, all that, or the brainy kids. Where do I fit in there? There's nothing, So it was really rough for me growing up, having these abilities and stuff. So as an adult person, I I continued with the normal life of being a mom and stuff, and then things didn't work out with my daughter's dad, so we separated and got divorced. And then my mom says, "Come and stay with us." And so I moved down here. I took my daughter with me because she was like about 3 years old at the time, and so we stayed with my parents, and then her dad remarried. Okay, and so then he was having visitations like because we split our weekends. It was like every other weekend, and then we split vacations. But during that time while he was married, I think they were like about a year and a half together already, and I had a dream that my daughter was going to have a brother. And so it's like, so I'm like, well, I'm going to ask him if his wife is pregnant. And I asked him, and he says no. He looks at me crazy, like, no. I'm like, okay, I was just asking. I said I had a dream about her, that you guys, gonna have a baby. No, he says. I thought, okay. So I haven't heard anything, right? It's been about a couple of months. I haven't heard anything. So finally, it was like, I think I had my daughter. Well, he had my daughter during like summer vacation. So I had her summer vacation was about to be over, and I had to break her up so she can go to school where I'm at. So I went and picked her up and brought her home, and I asked her. I had this urge to ask her a question. I said, Brittany, I says, is your dad's wife pregnant? And she said, yes. I said, do you guys know what you're having yet? Is it a boy? Yes. I'm like, see, I told you. And I said, are they freaked out? And she goes, yes. So they were freaked out. I told my daughter the story about me dreaming of her before she was born. She didn't believe me, right? She says, yeah, right, Mom, okay. All right. But then I told her about her brother. I had a dream about her brother before she had a brother. And it came true. Okay. So I'm sure she believes me now. Okay, so it's amazing how our abilities work with us in our daily lives, and then after, the interesting part is that when my daughter got accepted to this college where we first lived, and she got accepted to UC Irvine. So and she was all excited, and I'm like, oh wow, that means you're gonna go move out there. So she moved out, and it was just me and my cat. Okay. And so I'm like, okay, well, since it's just me now, my cat, we could do some traveling. But Spirit Team had other ideas, and that's when things started to change, when my daughter started going to college. And that's where it's like, okay, now it's time for you to get to work, start to get some self-education about myself. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I do have a YouTube channel. But I do share my childhood experience of what it's like for me. For me, I don't know anybody else that gone through the same thing, but for me, my experience is being a psychic kiddo, growing up with these abilities. I share my childhood experience with everybody at what it's like. I mean, if you look at all the videos, I'm like, wow, yeah, she's got something going on here. And it was this the way of life for me. It's very normal. It's very it's very streamlined, and now that it's easy for me to connect with spirit, but before I had no idea. I had no idea what was happening until I had to learn to educate myself, and that's why my spirit team says, okay, you need to learn about yourself. And so a while back, there's another story, is that my one of the pastors at the church that we decided to stay at told me that I have the spirit of discernment. So I figured, oh, so that's what I got. I had no idea what I had, and I didn't know what I had. Okay, I just knew I had something that was different from anybody else, and so he told me that I have the spirit of discernment. I'm like, okay. I even looked it up later because at the time I was a kid. I had just started going to that church, and I think it was like about 2 years. I wasn't even part of the choir yet because I think so. I was probably about 10 or 11 years old. And so that's when he told me. And I'm like, okay. So I didn't look up the word until later, after I was already 12 or 13 years old, because I didn't, it kind of stuck to me in my head, like spirit of discernment. So, so I figured, okay, that's what I have. So that was all the abilities that I have, was just the spirit of discernment. And so when my spirit teacher says, okay, it's time to learn, I said, well, I already know what I got. I have spirit of discernment. And they said, no, you have more, you have other things going on there that you need to know about. And it took an angel to talk to me about it, because the spirit teachers, I was not, I was like, no, thank you. All this was happening in my dream, all right? Not like while I'm awake. All this is happening in my dream, because if it was while awake, I'd ignore it, okay? Because I knew how to do that, through life. I ignored, like, talks and visions, and, I just, it wasn't like I was denying it. I was like, okay, I see it, whatever, like that, you know. And so, so it took, and I kept saying no, thank, because I was very devoted and into my church, because I was Sunday school teacher and all that, and it's like, I'm comfortable in this religion, okay. So, and then I'm like, okay, so my spirit team says, okay, well, we're gonna bring somebody else to talk to you, and I'm like, who are you gonna bring to talk to me? Okay, so so a couple of nights later, I think it was a couple of nights later, all of a sudden, I seen something that's bright and shiny. I shared this on my YouTube channel too. It's very interesting. And so, I saw this bright light, and I was like at home or something, and I saw this bright light, and I'm like, what is this? It's just like it's, if you can imagine, it looks like just a round sun right in the room with you, but not like a big sun, but it's just like a regular round sun. That's how bright it was. It was so bright. And then one thing I thought that was very interesting is, like, my eyes are not hurting. Okay, it's like not bright. Like, you know how you can't look at the sun, that you have to turn away. I'm looking at this bright light, and it's not hurting my eyes, and I can see what it is. It's just just very bright. But I couldn't figure out. I couldn't see any forms or anything. It was just like a round circle, bright light, like the sun. It was like red bright. And so I just kept looking at it, and then all of a sudden it started to form into an angel, and I'm like, oh, and I was like, oh, and the look of this angel had robe, like a white robe. It was long, and he had his hands stretched out, from the side, and his palms up. And I'm looking at this form in front of me, and it was like the we can explain, like this light shining glow or something just emanating out from the actual the being I'm seeing. All right, I know there's some people see it like this behind them, but this is like on them, on this particular being, and it's like this bright, I don't know, I can't explain it, it's hard to explain it, emanating out from coming out from the form of this being. So I'm looking at this form that's full, and it's forming into, it looks like a person, and it has a robe and nothing. I'm like, and then I'm like, who are you? And then all of a sudden I hear the words Gabriel. I'm like, oh my goodness. Why? I'm thinking to myself, why do I have an angel here with me? What's going on with that? I'm like, okay, because we all know about Gabriel being the messenger of God, right, in the Bible. So I'm almost kind of like nervous, and I'm like, what's going on here? So finally, Gabriel says, that, they're saying that your team is trying to talk to you, and I'm like, Well, I already know what they're trying to ask me. They're trying to talk to me to learning some stuff, and I don't know if I want to do that. And they're saying, and Gabriel was saying, well, you need to learn this stuff because you have abilities. And I said, well, I know I do. I have the spirit of discernment, and he's just no. He says no. He goes, yeah, you have that. He says, but you have other things that you don't know about, and you need to learn about it. And I'm like, okay, what is that? And Gabriel says you need to go and um, learn about it, learn about yourself, and this is where that self discovery comes in. How I teach as self discovery, because everybody is different of how they receive messages or feel messages or hear messages, or psychically see messages. Okay, so not everybody receives energy frequency the same. All right, they might get a similar outcome. All right, but everybody is unique in its own way, and that's a purpose for that. There is a purpose for why we're all unique like that. And so I'm like, okay. And then I had a lot of questions, concerns, because I grew up in the church, basically, because I'm a Sunday school teacher and all that stuff. And I had talked to Gabriel about my concerns. So he had answered all the questions and I said, and they said that, I had a lot of questions. I think, well, is this against God? Because that's another thing I talked about. I told Gabriel, I says, I don't want to go into doing something that's not aligned with my faith. I don't know if it's aligned with God or my faith. And then, Gabriel explained to me, yes, it is aligned with faith. That's where you're getting all your gifts from, is from God. So okay. So he pretty much put my energy frequency at ease, because I had a lot of concerns, and that was another reason why I was kind of like, no, that's not for me, because I didn't know anything of what they were trying to do. So Gabriel was explaining that to me, and I'm like, why me and all that? And they're saying, Gabriel was saying, there is a purpose for you to be here and to do this work. And I kind of, Gabriel kind of helped me reflect back in my past of growing up, because there was some incidents where I was in like a bad accident that we all could have died, but we were all saved, and there was a reason for that, because we have a purpose in the future of being here. Okay, so he helped me reflect back, different things, predicaments or divine interventions and things like that. So I'm like, okay. So I finally said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just what do I need to do? And they said, well, get with your team, and they will guide you on how to get started and where to start, and start learning about yourself so you could do this work for other people. And I'm like, okay, because like I said, I had a lot of, I was concerned, like, what if people think, that is like of the devil? And another one was, what about people who are looking for a certificate, like a degree or anything? That was another question. I also had a question about, is, again, that was the main concern, is that my abilities align with my faith? And uh and then about, am I going to be like opening up, like a lot of other people concerned, like, am I going to be opening up something evil, something bad? And that's another concern. So I really really asked the angel a lot of questions before I started to do this work. Okay, so that's how it all started. I said, okay, fine. I said, I'll go ahead and start listening and starting to listen and learn. And they said, okay, that's all we asked, is to listen and learn. And that was it. Everything is history. Okay, so this all happened when my daughter started, when she moved out. Okay, and she's 26 now, and she's already graduated from college. So this has been about 6.5 years, or 6 years, that I started to embrace my gift. Even though I've been through my abilities my entire life, it's just that, I just didn't incorporate or collaborate or cooperate my abilities with my regular worldly lifestyle. So, but I knew, unexplainable things happened while I was growing up. So now I know why. Okay, so it was all. It's been a very interesting lifestyle and growing up these abilities. Okay, so that's how you can tell if a person is an actual born with these abilities and then somebody who was educated and trained and who went to school. I never had a mentor. I never had anybody physically, a person that I can call up, hey, can somebody help me about this? Can you help me about this? What does this mean? I never had any of that. I had my spirit teachers, and that's all I had was to help me and to help connect with my own abilities and with spirit as well. I mean, as like I said, when a person who has been born with these abilities, you basically don't need a school to go to learn things. You just go directly to the source, the experts of the spirit teams, and that's what I did. And they were the one that came to me. Okay, I had no idea. I had no idea that I was going to do this work. That it wasn't planned that I was going to do this, and I had other plans. Okay, but do I regret those plans? No, no, I don't. A matter of fact, it's interesting is that my whole entire life, I felt like I needed to do something. Felt like I had a purpose, but I just couldn't put my finger on it and what that purpose was. And it's like for my whole entire life, up to the doing the learning from my abilities, is that my whole entire life, I felt like there was like a little bit of a yearning or a yearning or finding my place, um, uh, that kind of thing. It's in my I guess in my soul or in my spirit, and it was like something I had this like there was something I'm supposed to do, but I just didn't know what, and I was just going through life as I know it, doing, going to school, good education. Then I met somebody, and then we dated, you know what I mean? Just all the normal things. And then we dated for like 2 years, 2.5 years with my daughter's dad, and then I got married, and then I had her 3 years later. But during that time, all my abilities was kind of incorporating my regular lifestyle, my regular life. And so I had no idea all this was in it. I was going to end up doing this. And so finally, and then it just kind of dawned on me while I started to learn about myself. And then I started to have more confidence in my work and what I'm doing and talk to more people. And then that's when I started to do opening up a website. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and expand a little bit out than just because I started with like a little group. I think it was called Cafe Moms. That's where I started, like reading people. That was kind of like a practice thing for me. And then I got better, and it was very quick because it was like maybe 6 months. And then I'm like, okay, I feel that confident now, and my spirit teachers agreed. They said, you can expand out now. You don't have to stay in this Cafe Mom, because I was getting comfortable in there because I kind of knew everybody, and they said, okay, don't get too comfortable there because you're not going to stay. So that's when I expand out, and they said, okay, it's time for you to start a website. Okay, so it's like everything was falling into place, and then after a while, I think it was like in a year after, I noticed that I kind of think back of how it was when I felt this void and everything, like a purpose that I'm supposed to do something, and then it dawned on me, it's like this void is gone. It's gone. And so I realized, wow, that my I guess it was my path came into full circle because it was gone. And I'm like, oh, this must be it. This must be it. This must be where I'm supposed to be right now. This is where I'm supposed to be at. It makes my soul full circle. It's complete here on this lifetime. So it's like the searching and the yearning was gone, and I knew this is my purpose. So I thought, wow, it was like a real eye opener, and I just kind of reflect on it, and I'm like, okay, this must be it, because my soul is finally stopped yearning, and my soul and my spirit and myself said, okay, this is your purpose. This is where you're supposed to be at. All right. And I'm like, wow. And it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to know that you don't have this yearning anymore in this searching. You know, it's like you're wondering in your life where you're supposed to be at. And when you find your place, then it's like you're rested and you're at peace now. So it's a beautiful feeling, and I just like wow. So I just wow, wow. So you know, you're gonna find your own self purpose as well in life. If that yearning has stopped and you realize that you're at peace within yourself, then you know you found where you're supposed to be at. But there's some people that are still looking, okay. But don't stop, you know, looking and trying to find your place. It's sometimes it could be a long road, okay, and it's like your soul is searching. It feels like your soul is searching, but actually what's happening is that your soul isn't complete its full circle yet until we found our place, or found our purpose that we feel comfortable in, and then that's when our soul is like complete and full circle. um it's you know, my entire life has been a partial of like the walking in the world, you know, being physical, and then there's part of me of the spirit side. And growing up, I had to learn that I cannot separate the two, and a lot of people think that it's a separation. And I think that there's a lot of people who have struggles with that because they're trying to keep it spiritual, and then the logical and the science, logic. But the thing is that that's what creates a friction within ourselves, is because I did the same thing. And that's one thing I learned about myself, is that you can't separate the two because they work together. It's just part of us together. It's like you're trying to separate um, uh, like your personas, and because there's some side of us that are, maybe there's a soft side, and then there's a dark side, and we're trying to keep those separate. But a lot of times what happens, it creates friction within ourselves, and that's what's happening with me. So I was trying to live you know, the normal side, which, and then keep the spirit side separate, and I was kind of like keeping the spirit side in the dark basically, but it kept lighting its light, kind of blending into my life. And I kept, it's like trying to push it, like, no. I want to stay right here. Okay, but we can't do that. We gotta learn to coexist with both. And at that one point, I had to say, okay, physical side, I'm going to introduce you to the spirit side. Spirit side, I'm going to introduce you to the physical side. Now you guys meet and coexist. Work together, folks. All right. So that's what I had to basically do, is learn to work together with both sides of me, the spirit and the physical. All right. And we've kind of, with both of the sides of me had started to work parallel and work together. And I learned how to do that as well. And now a lot of people think, well, how does that work? And I'm going to explain that to you. Okay. When we have these abilities, our as the spirit part will give us either premonitions, or will sense vibration, or will sense intuition, or empathic abilities. Will feel emotions, right? Okay, that's the spirit side. Now, when we get to the physical side, our body react to what the spirit side is going through. So, say like we sense a weird vibe, our physical body is going to react to that weird vibe. Maybe we'll get heart palpitations. Maybe we'll feel some tingling sensations. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, so if you feel a tingling sensation on one side of your arm, or in the back of your neck or something, then that means spirit is standing next to you. Okay, And it means that, so that's what it is that our body, our physical body is reacting to the spirit side or the energy. So if our loved ones is standing next to us, our body is going to react to it. That's the physical side of us. It's going to have like a tingling sensation, or sometimes we'll feel a hand on us. All right. And that's the physical part of us that's feeling, is the spirit hand on us. Okay. So that's how we have to learn to incorporate the physical side of us and the spirit side of us together. They work together. Okay. So it's very interesting. I teach this stuff, folks. Okay. I open some lot of eyes. Okay. So it's very interesting how our physical body interacts with our spirit self, and then our spirit self interacts with our spirit body. And that's what we have to learn to coexist with both sides of us. Because it's, if we try to ignore this side or put it in the dark, it's always either going to bleed into or merge into our physical life or lifestyle, or it's going to create some friction. All right. And that's going to come out in our physical side. All right. So if we're like, some of us like to or try to ignoring the spirit side of us, it's going to create some friction into us in the physical. It's going to come out in a physical way. Either it's going to come out into like a depression. It could be like you're not eating, or maybe you're not sleeping well, or maybe you're having stomach issues, gut issues. Okay. Sometimes it is a medical thing, that you need to check out, but also it can also mean something of spiritual thing, of the spirit side of us, is that it's creating some friction and it's coming out in our physical body. All right. You know how the thought about how kids, some children who comes into homes that are in homes that have issues, like family issues, the kids are going to act out. Okay. And not because they're bad kids, it's that they're acting out of the environment, of the stress. Okay. So that's kind of similar. I'm trying to give you an analogy, similar of that, how the spirit side is going to react to in a physical way, while there's creating some tension. Sometimes we're having a battle between our heart and our head, right? But a lot of times, it's not about our heart, it's about our intuition, and there's a battle between. And also another thing I want to say is that our intuition is linked to our soul. Okay, that is the core of how all of our abilities is linked to each other. All right, our abilities is not, it's not incorporated or linked to the cosmos or the heaven. It's our part of our soul. Our soul is a linked, if you can think of it like what do you call it, tens, or wired, or however you want to think of it, all wired to each of our abilities. And that's, our soul is the main core of how it all works. Okay, that's how it all works. Like our intuition, our psychic ability. Okay, our soul is the generator of the main core of how it all works. Let me see. Oh, and also another thing is that there's some people that don't really understand the word psychic and a medium. I'll explain that to you as well. It's very simple. Being a psychic has to do with energy based. Now I'll explain what it all ties into energy based. All right, psychic has to do with energy based. What includes that energy base will be psychic ability. All right, seeing things. Now you remember, energy can form. It can form in anything. It isn't all about transparency and liquidy. It can form into something. I'll give you an analogy. It's like, a lot of those Terminator movies. All right, think of it like energy, like that. Okay, it forms. All right, so when we see things psychically, it's energy, but it's forming into something solid. Okay, it's like forming a loved one, forming a house. It's forming a map. It's forming into a color. It's forming into letters, a word, a saying. It can also come as a hearing and as energy, as music, okay? Also, you can smell, okay, or hear, smell, sense, all right? A lot of it is energy based, okay? Uh, Intuition, that's energy based, all right? The empathic abilities, emotion, that's energy based. So that's all tied in into the psychic ability, okay? That's what a psychic is, an ability of all energy based, all right? So anything of hearing, uh, sensing, feeling, psychically seeing, all right, within your mind's eye, all right, because energy forms. Think of it just like the Terminator. It forms, all right? It forms into something solid, okay? All right, and a lot of people kind of misunderstand what energy is, and energy can form into something solid psychically, all right? Um, so that's what a psychic is, all right? It's under that umbrella of what a psychic is. So you'll see a lot of people saying psychic readings. All right, that's what like a psychic reading on a person. What they're doing is that they're sensing your energy. All right, same thing if they do aura readings. You know, auras. That's energy based. That's a psychic. That's under the psychic umbrella. All right, because it's energy based. All right, so when we see auras, it's energy forming into colors. Okay, some people might have a rainbow over their head. That's energy. Okay, and it's forming a color. Okay, okay, so it's very easy to understand what a psychic is, and it's all about energy based. Energy forms. All right, it's not all transparent and liquidy. Okay, it forms into solid something. It can form into a person, it can form into an animal, it can form into a map, it can form into colors, it can form into anything, all right? In objects. Because when I do readings, sometimes I'll just see objects, you know, like a picture frame of a person, like back in the 60s, and then the colors are black and white, right? Energy forms into color like that, into things like that. Okay, so that's how you can understand what as a psychic is. It forms energy. It's not all about liquidy and transparent. Okay, that's what a psychic is. All right, psychic abilities of seeing within our mind's eye, hearing, okay, sensing, like we feel energy, all right, intuition, we sense vibe, okay. Empathic ability, we sense emotions, especially people, the living emotions or spirit emotions that's attached on the other side, okay. All of that is energy based, okay. You guys beginning to understand that now? I'm telling you, I teach this stuff, and I learned so much from the spirit teachers. I didn't read this out of no book, and I don't think anybody else has either. But I don't have a large bookcase of metaphysics books. I only got 4, and that's basically about my learning about myself. And that's through the spirit teachers. Okay, so everything that I'm saying to you right now is what I've learned from spirit teachers. All right, right from the experts. All right, so I'm explaining what a psychic is. It forms. All right, energy forms, and it can form into something solid. It can form into something in colors. It can form into flowers. Okay, it can form into a car. It can form into words. All right. Okay, so that's what a psychic is. It's all energy based. Now the medium part is a little different. Okay, the medium part is all about communication. It's all about talking to your loved ones. It's all about talking to the angels. It's all about talking to the spirit guides. Okay, as is the medium is a direct connection to talk to. It's about word. It's about talking to. Okay, so if you see somebody, and that's all it is, it's talk. All right. You heard that saying about a medium can be a psychic, but a psychic cannot be a medium. That's true, because psychics only deals with the energy part, receiving or sensing energy. All right. They, like I said, it forms. All right. So they might see a image of a loved one. That's because they're getting that energy of a loved one from the person they're talking to, the living. Okay. Because they have that person. They're thinking about that loved one in their head. So the psychic will sense get that information from the person they're talking to. It's like, oh, I see, you have a loved one, and that's exactly the person they're thinking about. Now they, but they're not able to talk to them because there's either two things: they don't know how, or they don't want to talk to spirit. They only want to deal with the energy. Okay, so it's not like they can't. It's just they like I said, refuse to either want to talk to them or only want to deal with the energy part. Okay, so they can see psychically with the person who they're thinking of, but that doesn't mean that that's a medium. It's because the energy is forming in their mind's eye. The person who's reading the living. Okay, that's different. Now, when communication of a medium is actually talking to the person that they see in the mind's eye. That's different. Okay, so that's how a psychic medium works. Okay, because when the psychic medium works, have two abilities working together. That's what I am. So I use all my senses to connect with the loved one, and I can talk to them. Okay, so I would get either I'll sense them, I feel them, or I would empathic part of me will feel the empathic part of how they feel on the other side, what they're feeling. Also, I have the psychic abilities of energy forming of what they look like, what they're wearing when I talk to them. Okay, and then after I get all that, my senses going, activated, then I talk to them. Yeah, I talk to them and create a dialogue with spirit. So that's what a psychic medium does, and that's how a psychic medium works. They use all their senses to talk to the spirit. If it's just a psychic, then they only connect with energy of what the person is thinking, like thinking of a loved one. Then that comes out in energy, and that person who's reading that energy of the life of the living is going to see that, and that's what's going to come out. So I think a lot of people get confused with that, assuming that they're connected with the loved one, but actually they're connected with you because you are thinking of that loved one. Okay, that's how it works. Okay, and it's not a medium thing. When they connect with you and see a loved one, that's not a medium. Okay, that's a psychic. That's a psychic work. All right, that's psychic work of that, how that works. Now it's a different if they see the image of the person you're thinking of, and then they're able to talk to them and just talk to them and get a response from spirit, then that is a medium. All right. So you guys are learning some lessons